and it does things by twisting people's bodies all over and weird things. I talked in a previous video about how we intend to use AI or not in the writing of our novel. Well, today we have an example of how we did use AI in a way that I think is helpful, and a way that we kind of feel like the bad parts of AI ourselves.
Yes, that second part came up as we were talking with each other about how we feel when we're sitting down to write, what that mindset is like for us and the challenges that we're facing. And for me, at least, it almost feels like I am an early version of AI that's still not really good at doing its job. And we'll talk a little bit more about the specifics behind that in a little bit. But starting on a good note, how has AI helped you?
Well, one of the things that I was trying to figure out is, what would a sophomore, 16-year-old girl, what would she have as an assignment that might help make some progress along a particular path that we wanted to make? And I was thinking about literature. What would she be expected to read? And I just asked AI, what are some examples of novels that a sophomore in high school might be expected to read? And it gave me a list. And then I asked it, based on what you know about the story that we're writing and the themes that are part of, which of these novels do you think would explore some of the same themes? And so it recommended Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe as one of the examples. And as it summarized the plot, I realized, oh, it does have themes of parent-child relationships. Oh, it definitely has themes of belonging and respect and all the things that we have been looking at. There are parallel themes here. And so I figured this book would have some likely opportunity for us to have some plot points to springboard off of. And so that was a big help for me in coming up with, how do I make progress on this particular scene where Vanessa is reading her homework?
It's a very good use of AI as a resource to find other resources, and something that definitely fits in that framework of how we want to use AI. Not to the downside of AI, how we feel like AI. I was telling you about like how I feel. I feel like I'm sitting down and I'm trying to create the movie of what is going on in the book in my head, and then describe that movie as I'm typing it out on the screen. And sometimes that movie feels like it comes from one of those early AI models that still is not very good at creating video, and sometimes things don't really follow. And people are doing things that are very unnatural, and it's clear that it's a very obvious fake, and it just does not look natural. And sometimes I can tell that that's what the movie is that my brain is creating. I'm still not good at easily, at least, coming up with something that feels realistic.
It's the kind of thing where I know there's this event that I want to happen, and there's this event, different waypoints on the plot. Or to use the analogy, I've got this shot and I've got this shot, and I want I want the AI to transition from one to the next, and it does things by twisting people's bodies all over and weird things. And we feel like we're kind of twisting the plot really weirdly to get from one waypoint on the story to another waypoint on the story. Even with, as I was looking through what scene she's likely to be reading, or what chapter, what is the event that's happening in there, and how is that going to trigger Vanessa to be able to respond to the next thing that happens? How is it going to get her brain in the right mindset? It still feels very much convoluted. And I found that as I was looking through, I'd read the book, and I wanted to be able to show, okay, so she read this about this character, and start naming the characters and describing the event. And then I realized, this isn't a book report on Things Fall Apart. This isn't my opportunity to show off. Look, I actually read the book, which I think we talked about that earlier. I did my research and I want to prove it. But to find the event that she might have been trying to read about that could help her, help the emotion that I want to explore to be able to come up in her mind.
And I've used AI in a very similar way of, we want our character to make this decision. I want my character to make this decision, and what is going to influence him to make that decision. And for me, rather than a literature assignment, it was looking at characters in history that may have done a very similar thing that would encourage him to take that step. So using AI, what are some examples of historical figures who have done things like this? And what are the specific aspects of their story that somebody might look to and actually use that to influence themselves in the direction that I, as the author, want them to go?
So it's kind of like a reverse way. If I know the thing, I can Google the thing and learn about the feelings or reactions associated with it. But to search in reverse and say, I know the feelings and thoughts that I want associated with it. Now give me a thing in this category.
Yeah.
AI seems to be much better at that than a typical internet search. But that's kind of where we've been over the past couple of weeks, really coming out of when we sit down to write, what's going on in our heads. So our question for you this week is, when you sit down to write, what goes on in your head that drives your writing process? Let us know that in the comments, and we will see you in 2 weeks.